Well, guys, I'm a far cry from my home garden in San Diego Zone 10B. I'm out here with Jacques and the team in Chicago, Illinois at the upcoming Obama Center, which is going to open pretty soon and has some of the most ambitious community garden projects that I've ever seen. Tons of native plantings, extremely sustainable, and also is home to one of the largest raised bed edible gardens that I have ever seen. So come along with me as we check it out before it's opening. And who knows, we might even see the president. Okay, guys, I found the man, the myth, the legend. This is Matt Bird. He is a principal at Michael Van Valkenburg Associates. He wouldn't say it, but a lot of people call him the leader of the landscape. You've planted and designed much of this space, correct?
Yeah, we had a whole team of people helping, but I've been out here on site working with the contractors, making sure we've got a new public space for Chicagoans.
For the last 10 years. Guys, and it must be a cool moment because we're coming up on open.
Yeah, we're almost there. It's been a long journey, but things are starting to come alive. We're almost done with the planting. We're going to see the public in here soon. Yeah.
All right, well, let's head on down. Looks like we got a Woodlands Walk. So Matt, when you first started on the project, obviously the Obamas have had a huge role in shaping this, but I would say just from the gardener's perspective, you guys have gone to a level that I haven't seen in a public project in a while. And so what was the kind of philosophy behind that?
Well, we wanted to really integrate the place with Jackson Park, the historic park that's been here since Frederick Law Olmsted designed it in the early 1900s. We didn't want it to feel like a separate space. It should be a part of the community, interact with what's been here for years. So how do we bring that landscape over, bring plants that are a part of the ecology of the area already, and then interface those with the buildings that we have on site. So we have a more civic space over towards the neighborhood on our west, and this natural landscape that comes up over the buildings. We're also able to, reuse resources that we had on site. We found stone and logs and bringing that heritage of the site back into the soils and plantings and native ecology that we have here.
And when I say they're doing some very interesting things from a gardener's perspective, my perspective, I really mean it, because this might just look like a normal log right here, but it's something called a nurse log. And those of you who watch the channel for a while might have an inkling of what that would mean, but I'm going to let Matt explain it once we get down to the Wetlands Walk. So this area here, Matt, is the Woodlands Walk?
Woodland Walk, yeah. This is a spot we're really excited about. It's just a way to really move through the space in a different way, and has a great diversity of planting. So we have a real lush ground cover layer that has seasonal variety. So right now, it's early spring, we're seeing a lot of flowers pop and get that early leaf, beautiful green color on a lot of the shrubs and trees.
Yep.
Over time, this is really going to change and have a canopy of trees kind of covering everything. So
because these guys right here are going to be really tall.
They'll be really big.
Plus the fall.
Ideally, we're fully shaded here, and in the fall, we've got a ton of fall colors. Totally changes, and it just becomes this really great habitat for birds, wildlife, and plus just park visitors coming in. A beautiful change in the plants.
I mean, speaking of flowers, later on we're going to show you there is a flower that you can actually only find here at the Obama Center. Okay, so we went through the Woodlands Walk. We're now here at the Wetlands Walk, which you've had a huge hand in designing and working on. And we do have a massive log that I did a little teaser of. What is the story behind these logs?
So when we were working early on the project, we knew there was a lot of old trees on the site, a lot of ash, which has a disease that's going around the country right now. So a lot of those are dying off. Plus we had just a lot of construction to do here where there's all these new buildings, so we were going to lose some of the trees on site. We wanted to find a way to use those, and two ways we're doing that is using them as like cool kind of furnishings and play features on site, and the second, which I think is kind of harder to understand, but it's way cooler. It's way cooler. Is we're taking kind of the heritage of the ecology of the site, the microbiology, and trying to bring that back into the landscape. So we've got all new soil here, but we wanted to make sure the microorganisms and bacteria and fungi that were living here before the construction started are back in the soil. And that helps the new plants kind of adapt to the area, has more resources for those plants, rather than bringing new fertilizers in, because we're trying to be more organic.
Well, there's no chemicals on the entire site.
No chemicals. This is all organic maintenance. A lot of native plants to be able to do that.
Yeah. So as a gardener, this might be the coolest thing about this project to me so far, because we talk a lot about the soil food web. Remember, soil is dirt plus life, and that is really what's growing the plant. We as gardeners aren't really growing plants. We're giving them an environment with which they can grow themselves. So using these logs, nurse logs, as basically inoculators of beneficial bacteria, probably some mycorrhizal fungi that are from the old site that was literally right here, is a really cool way to inoculate new soil, which was brought in for the project, but also just on a philosophical level, have some level of heritage for the space. Okay, so here we are, Matt, the Wetland Walk. Obviously, one of the places that the elevation is a bit lower, right?
Yeah, we wanted to create resources around the site where we can capture stormwater. Such a problem in a lot of cities around the country, especially here in Chicago. So we're trying to hold as much stormwater as we can, make it a resource rather than having things that are just in big pipes underground, and allow that to be a source for a lot of exciting planting.
So the plants down in the basin here, Matt, I assume can obviously handle being submerged a bit.
Yeah, so this is an area where we wanted to be able to capture stormwater and really let these plants use that water as a resource. But in times when we've got a drought or it's drier, where those plants can handle not being wet all the time too.
Yeah.
So it's not a true wetland.
And it's designed for people to be able to walk through right here, right?
Yeah, so we wanted an opportunity for people to really get in the space, use the salvage logs that we pulled from the site.
Same logs.
Yeah, same logs, different uses. So here it's more playful, be able to really interact with nature, get down. We're hoping that over time, this is some ajuga that is really going to run through stones and really feel like a natural landscape.
Like this will all be covered eventually, right?
Over time, this is really going to fill in, and we've got a great diversity of species to allow for like this to tolerate climate change and allow for plants to really adapt to the area.
Yeah, and then these stones are interesting find.
A fun element. We wanted to have things that you could step on through here and interact with the different levels of topography. And while we were in construction, we actually found these stones as they were excavating for some of the buildings. So they were in perfect shapes to be able to use as steppers and allow you to go up and down and interact with the logs kind of all the way throughout. And it's a really fun story for the site, as well as
it's like they were built as steps pretty much for this whole area. This place is gonna look so cool. It already does, but man, in like, I don't know, a year, what do you think?
Yeah,
it'll pop
within a year. It's gonna look way different than it does now, and give it 2 or 3 years, it's gonna feel like a real natural space.
All right, Matt, we're now here in the playground area.
Yeah.
But we're standing behind a tree that I think looks really cool, but I don't know much about ornamental trees. So why don't you enlighten me?
Yeah, so these are a really fun tree, weeping spruce that we kind of specially select, and they have these fun drooping branches that kind of look like you're in a Dr. Seuss book. So we like to put them in playgrounds and let kids kind of explore the different plants.
It looks very much like a Dr. Seussian type, because it almost looks like it's been, what's the word, like coppiced or something at the top?
Yeah,
or chopped right off.
Right. It looks like they've been shaped a certain way, but really they're just naturally growing.
It's just what they do.
Set the leader a certain way so that they grow tall, but it allows the branching to go out and really kind of give something the kids can interact with.
Look at this one. It just decided to just jut out this way, huh?
Yeah.
It's so wild.
Fun to walk under, to try to make different arches.
Yeah.
See, it's playful.
Okay, we're here in the actual playground space. If you're a garden nerd, I think you will appreciate this. These play spaces, Matt, are designed after native species, starting with this very unique and large dragonfly.
Yeah, this is exciting. We're able to use some of the native ecology and look at the habitat and wildlife and birds and insects that are living nearby in the lagoon, and use that as inspiration for this playground. So we worked with a team of really talented playground designers to come up with this equipment that's really playful but still super fun and educational for kids to come here from the local neighborhood, local schools, or when they're visiting a museum, and really be able to interact with the park.
So this one, it's got to be a bird nest, right?
Yeah, so this is based on a bird's nest that lives in the small little juncus and sedges on the edges of the lagoon. So we worked with a team of playground designers in Germany to come up with this based on the reeds that these little nests would grow in. So
oh, no way.
this is similar to, what we would find for small animals out in the lagoon, but acts as a play feature. So kids can climb in here, hang out in the nest, try to get all the way up to the tallest nest. Maybe you don't get there the first time, but you're able to climb across the rope as you come here more and more.
What's so cool about this too is, like, if we head up this way, this got to be those logs again, right?
Yeah, so these are salvage logs from the site that we dried out and we're able to use as play features, kind of give a chance for kids to interact with nature here. Maybe they're done on the climber or the swings, and kind of can play through this stone and mulch, and then hopefully over time the plants kind of merge in.
This will look like
really get a native landscape.
Almost like a native kind of like meadowy, foresty type zone.
Yeah, it's kind of like playing in the woods, hopefully.
Yeah.
We want to be able to.
That's the dream.
Just be in the city, but also feel like you've got a chance to interact with the forest.
So cool. Okay, I did tease a very special flower, Matt, that you can only find here at the Obama Center. It is right behind us down here. It is the Obama tulip. Okay, so how does someone get their own tulip? I need to know for myself.
I think you have to be a president probably to get the tulip named after yourself. But these are really exciting. They were donated by the Dutch Embassy to be a part of the project. So these are President Barack Obama tulips. We've got 5,000 of them out on the project right now. And they're like a really exciting feature early in the spring. So you see this area here, we have kind of the early spring pop of these tulips as everything else is really growing in. And it creates a really cool feature as we enter the site.
Yeah, they're like a day or two probably from fully
we're
opening.
really close.
I want to say. I was told that the sort of pinkish shoot coming through the middle of the leaf is representing the flames of hope. I don't know. I mean, botanically, I just think it's a very cool looking tulip. And I'm not even that much of a flower grower, you guys know. Look at this thing. Okay, Matt, we're here in my world, finally, at the fruit and vegetable garden. I see millions of starts here. I'm going to talk about those, but this fruit and vegetable garden is named after Eleanor Roosevelt, who was the pioneer behind the Victory Garden movement, which is crazy. We just looked it up. 40% of all fresh produce at its peak was produced from Victory Gardens back in the day.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Like we're not even close to that now.
No, we're not even close, but it's so exciting to like have this as a part of this campus. Really great resource for the community, great opportunity for kids and adults to learn about growing your own fruits and vegetables and, you know, getting to be able to eat it right here on campus.
It's almost planting time too. I mean, I see it's so cool to me to see the plants that have been selected here because they're working with the Chicago Botanic Garden to help manage this garden. And me being in San Diego Zone 10B, right now, none of this would work. Yeah. Almost none of this. We're talking kales, brassicas, leafy greens. My season for that was literally December,
right?
When I don't have a frost. And so seeing this stuff here is really cool. But even cooler are the raised beds, which are not only probably the sturdiest raised beds I've ever seen, dude, but also the most I've ever seen. So let's take a look. All right, dude, these raised beds. Tell me about the design of these. I've never seen ones this sturdy in my entire life. I'm honestly a little jealous. Like, these are tanks.
Yeah, we wanted something that was going to last here. We know there's going to be a ton of people on site, a ton of kids interacting with it, big galas and parties here. We want to be able to make sure these are a feature for a long time. So we've got a combination of steel and a thermally modified ash, which is a newly developed type of treatment for wood that has less chemicals in it. It's a way to have something that lasts for a long time. So these are gonna,
like in contrast to a pressure treated.
Correct.
You're right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not pressure treated, not tropical hardwoods. Something that's going to last for a long time, but still be good for the environment. So then they create this real opportunity to have this deep rooting mass here for fruits and vegetables.
I mean, this goes down
the soil here
like 3-4 feet, maybe.
Yeah, we're about
something like that.
At the deepest ones, we're about 3 feet. But the other thing we wanted to make sure was that there was a variety of heights. So we've got people of all sizes coming in here. We've got little kids.
I mean, let's check this one out over here.
Able to,
You've got wheelchair accessible little pull-up right here as well, which is really cool.
I think it's really important to the Obama Foundation and to us as designers is making sure the space is accessible. So we worked on the design to allow for wheelchair users to get right up under the planters, have their opportunity to work on planting alongside everyone else.
Yeah, then this is brought up, so it's a nice like workable space for someone who can't access it standing. Yeah. Okay, so while the garden space is obviously really cool, it is yet to be planted out. We're going to show you some photos of it planted out, but you guys know at the homestead I do a lot of cooking. I don't have a setup like the one I'm about to show you though. So there's an entire garden workroom in here and a teaching kitchen. This is, I'm assuming, where they're going to be processing a lot of the produce. There is a freezer right here to store a lot of it. I'm told a lot of it's going to be donated to local community organizations as well. But check this out. You guys all know Jacques is the resident garden hermit at Epic and loves to cook. Take a look. Jacques, what do you think?
I think this is amazing. They have like cameras for teaching. They have like sinks back there for washing produce and storing. This is
Look at this.
amazing cooking site.
Imagine if we had this at the homestead. Do a little cooking for us.
Hey people, how we doing?
How's it going? Kevin.
Good to see you, Kevin.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Emily.
How are you, Emily?
Nice to meet you.
Dave.
Dave, nice to see you.
Anna.
Anna,
Amanda.
it's so nice to see you. Please, have a seat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a gardener for 13 years, 15 years now. And most of my work is teaching online, how to grow, which is interesting because it's all digital, but it's a very human, ancient task. And a lot of the times that work happens in their backyard and you don't get to see it in public. Whereas this space, not only is public, but it's very sophisticated in its approach to the garden. You have the vegetable garden, of course, but then the wetlands and the Woodlands Walk. And I guess my question is, first of all, what do you hope that people take out of these spaces? But also, why go to this extreme? You know, it's very, very developed and very sophisticated from a gardener's perspective. And, you know, in a public works project, sometimes you just don't see that. And this is very, very impressive.
A couple of things I want to say. First of all, I do not have a green thumb. And I can take no credit for the White House garden. That was my wife's thing. It's interesting. We just had, before you guys came in, high school kids from 3 of the surrounding schools. We were using them as kind of a focus group to find out what are the things that you guys would like to see as part of programming, because sadly there have been shootings in a couple of these schools. We were in a conversation about kids feeling as if they have no safe spaces and they don't have much to do, and so either they're home or they're online, and some of them were basketball players, and so, but other than sports, they didn't feel like there were a lot of other venues. And so we were asking suggestions, and a bunch of them were like, you know, like cooking and learning how food's made and grown is really interesting to us. And this is something we discovered with Michelle's garden. People actually want to feel connected to how does something as basic as food grow? How does it get to a table? And who does it? And they're feeling as if they're getting access to something that's so basic, but also is kind of a miracle, right? Particularly for urban communities, young people are cut off from that. They never have access to it. So what we thought was, if we're going to have these open spaces anyway, let's make use of them by taking the idea that Michelle initiated in the White House. Let's put it right smack dab in the middle of the campus. Let's build a sort of a food prep culinary center right next to the gardens. And now we can have a bunch of young people rotating through here, young and not so young, learning how things grow, how does then food get prepared, what kinds of careers are involved in this, how do you do it just for fun? And I actually think that there is something about getting your hands in the dirt and doing something that results in this thing. You know, like it's a carrot, and I planted it. You know, and that is wonderful in and of itself, but is also kind of a metaphor, or an extension of people having a sense of agency and having a sense of, you know what, like I don't have to depend on some big company packaging and handing me something, and I hand them, you know, money. I was going to say cash, but I guess Venmo or whatever people are handing them from. And that sense of empowerment, it's the same reason why in the Chicago Public Library that's on the campus, you know, we've got a whole sort of a maker's room in which we want young people to be able to make stuff. And it's the same reason why we've got a recording studio. Yeah, get people out gardening. Why not?
Potatoes.
Why not? Let's grow some potatoes. So,
Well, I'm pretty stoked to see what this is going to look like in a couple years, Matt. It looks amazing now. Of course, for me, being a fruit and vegetable grower, hopefully I can get my hands in the dirt at the fruit and veg garden at some point in the future, but thanks for showing us.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to have you out here. We hope you come back often.
We'll be back. Hope you guys enjoyed the tour. See you soon. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.